Hey everyone, Warwick's here. So we're back with the second class in our Beginner's Guide series. This class we're looking at the Paladin this time. So in this series we take a look at the complete spellbook, or not the complete spellbook, the most noteworthy spellbook items to kind of go over what they do and how you can use them if you're starting out with Paladin as a whole. We're going to take a look at not just their passive abilities, but their offensive abilities, their defensive abilities, their cooldowns, rotation, talents, and legendaries, and then also with this class that I didn't do with Monk, stat priority. We will not go over covenants, soulbinds, or conduits in this video. That'll be done in another video coming down the line. So with this one, we're going to start with the tanking spec here of Paladin, the Protection Paladin. Before we dive deep into the video, guys, as always with YouTube, I know I say this every single time, but make sure you like and share the video, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell so you're notified when I put out new videos. Subbing costs you nothing and helps me reach my goals that I have for this YouTube channel. I'm actually over 100 subs now, and I'm blown away by the support, the likes, and the comments that you guys make on all my videos. They've been really cool and really fun to be able to read and go over with you, and you've given me some ideas for some videos, and I'm actually looking now at uploading my UI because a few of you seem to really like this, and I'm kind of shocked by it. All right, you can also follow my Twitch stream at twitch.tv/works_BAA, where I stream Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from 9:30 to midnight Central Standard Time. Come join and hang out as I try to rebuild my guild, maybe see if I can get that AOTC, but most importantly right now we're pushing for KSM. And also building up my druid, as well as occasionally this character. So let's start by getting into the abilities. So we're going to start with some notable passives of the Protection Paladin. The first one is Grand Crusader, right here. When you avoid a melee attack or use Hammer of the Righteous, you have 15% chance to reset the remaining cooldown and Avenge your shield. This pops this as a big old shield on either side of your character. It's very hard to miss. When this procs, you just want to use Avenge your shield as quickly as possible. Shining Light. Every 5 shields of the righteous make your next Word of Glory free. If you can help it, you never want to spend Holy Power on Word of Glory. You only want to use it when you have the Shining Light passive built up. Now on these Luxthos frames right here, it pops up right here as like what I'm using when I use it. You'll see it here in a little bit when I play with rotation. And then finally the Mastery Divine Bulwark. Increases your chance to block melee attacks by percentage. I'm at 14.5 right now. Reduces all damage taken inside your Consecration by percentage. I'm at 5%, and it also increases your attack power by 14.5%. So big defensive capability, but also some good strong offensive ability here with this Mastery. So Mastery, very good stat for the Protection Paladin. Now we're going to move into the defensive abilities, and we're going to start with Shield of the Righteous. Shield of the Righteous is here now. So it's 3 holy power to use it, so you have to, this is a builder spender style tank. So you slam your enemies, causing damage, and then increasing your armor by a certain percentage for 4.5 seconds. This is going to be the majority of your damage. It's also going to be your major mitigation, active mitigation standpoint. Thing is it's not the best armor reduction. Like only 1358 right now is actually not all that great. It is something that I would love to see boosted to maybe make the Paladin a little bit more tanky. Or work something like Stagger does, where you have your abilities that give you Shuffle, and hopefully, and you can actually just continue to extend Shuffle indefinitely. I kind of would like to see that with Shield of the Righteous, but for now, you get increased armor for 4.5 seconds. It's an okay mitigation tool, but not the best one. You rely a lot on your Mastery, Shield of the Righteous, and your cooldowns to kind of make yourself as a whole defensive kit. Word of Glory. Other 3 holy power spender, you call down the light to heal a friendly target by 3k in my case. If you're casting it on yourself, you have it increased up to 250% of your missing health. So this is good to use obviously at low health. It can be like a pseudo lay on hands if you can crit with it. So it works really well as a good heal on yourself. Again, you generally don't want to use this unless you're in real trouble, unless you have Shining Light built up in full, so it's completely free, which allows you to dump all your holy power into Shield of the Righteous. But if you need it for any particular reason, you can do that. Next up is Guardian of Ancient Kings, or Queens, if you get that. So basically this is just a huge 5-minute cooldown that reduces all damage taken by 50% for 8 seconds. Mine, here you can see, turns you into a neat little character here. When you do that, if you get the queens, and there's also I think one for a Valkyrie. I don't remember all the looks that you can get with it, but it's a cool looking ability and also a very powerful cooldown, but on a very long 5-minute cooldown. So don't be as liberal with it as you will be for another one, but you know, definitely want to use it. All right, other defensive one, Divine Shield. Of course, this is the immunity, the bubble. Everyone knows about the bubble. So basically, get complete immunity. You're the only tank with a full out immunity. There's a talent that makes this also a massive taunt, which is decent enough in AoE that if you are really struggling with threat, you can use Divine Shield with the taunt talent. This one is only like if you absolutely need to save your life. You know, you bubble and then you can taunt a mob. That allows you to get that immunity and let your healer catch up or heal yourself, whatever you need to do. Very, very good, powerful cooldown, but one that you definitely want to be on the lookout for. Ardent Defender. This one is on a 2-minute cooldown, so you'll be using it much more often. Just a 20% damage reduction, but if you get killed while it's up, you would instead heal to 20% max health. Something that you don't aim to proc the 20% max health heal. You usually mainly use it for 20% damage reduction on top of what you get with your mastery. So you can see just DR stacks up on DR and DR along with Devotion Aura, which you will primarily use if you're the only Paladin. So like you can see, you just get a lot of passive damage reduction, which is where I think Blizzard wants the Paladin to kind of be really strong, but they're still kind of paper thin compared to most everyone else. And then the last major cooldown that you have that we're going to talk about is Lay on Hands. Heal yourself for maximum health, 10-minute cooldown, use it on yourself or on others. Alright, let's talk about your offensive abilities, and we're going to start with your main filler, Hammer of the Righteous. So it's got a hasted cooldown, so haste is a good stat most time. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but hasted cooldown basically hammers target for damage. If you're standing in your Consecration, it basically does like a cone in front of you. Hits all other targets within 8 yards, and it generates 1 holy power and has 2 charges. So great filler ability. You're going to want to use it often. Next up, Judgment. Judgment, kind of staple of all Paladin specs, deals big single target holy damage, and then also taking 25% increased damage from your next holy power ability. So this empowers your Shield of the Righteous damage. Doesn't do anything for the armor, unfortunately, but makes the damage bigger. Has 1 charge with the talent that goes there, but also a hasted cooldown, so 5.4 seconds for me right now. So very strong 30-yard range, so you can use it even after run away from mechanics, say like Glyph of Destruction on Artificer Zymox, for example. Avenger Shield. Come back here. Captain America Shield. You hear your shield at enemy targets, dealing holy damage, interrupting and silencing non-player targets for 3 seconds, and then it jumps to nearby enemies. Have a talent that makes it jump to 4 enemies. Generates 1 holy power. It's only 1 on the initial hit. It doesn't get 1 for every enemy hit, so it's not like a oversurge of power and thing like that. This is an ability you want to use on cooldown. It's very, very good as a starting up on packs or just using it in general on even on single target. It does. I mean, that's pretty good damage at 572 at my very low eye level on this character, admittedly. All right, Consecration. Consecration, you want to have down as much as humanly possible. Deals 491 damage at my stats over 12 seconds. You only get 1 at a time. Has a 4-second cooldown and 12-second duration, so no reason that you can't keep this up over time. I can see I have it here and here, kind of telling me how long it lasts. And then right now it's back up. You can see 4, 3, 2, 1 here at the bottom. It's up, and I still have 7 seconds left on it. So there's no reason to keep this up. You don't have to spam it every time it's up. When you get down to 3, 4 seconds left, go ahead and drop it again, so that way you're constantly getting, for me it's a 10% damage reduction at this time. Alright, Hammer of Wrath, back for all Paladin specs. Hammer of Wrath is your execute. When it targets below 20% health, you can chuck this at them. Big damage, 6.8 seconds, so a hasted cooldown. You can do it during Avenging Wrath, Ashen Hollow if you're Venthyr, and then it generates 1 holy power at that time. So very strong ability. This is the biggest priority ability when it becomes available, because it just hits like a truck and generates 1 holy power, so you can keep your Shield of the Righteous up very well. Alright, we're going to talk quickly about the auras. The auras are pretty straightforward. Devotion Aura, Party and raid members within 40 yards are bolstered by their devotion, reducing damage taken by 3%. This is the default one that you'll use anytime you are the only paladin. If you're just out in the open world running around, you can use Crusader Aura, which is somewhere around here. Right here. So it increases your mounted speed. Consecration Aura, interrupts and silence effects on party members within 40 yards or 30% shorter. This obviously very useful in PvP, niche uses in PvE. And then Retribution Aura. Basically, if anyone dies, you gain wings for 12 seconds. This one you could do on progression as a tank if you're not having to be the Devotion Aura bot. But really, auras aren't as much thought as you think. You use Devotion Aura unless you have another, like a Holy Paladin, in which case you pick another one. If you are with a Ret Paladin, you guys argue over who has to do what aura. Alright, let's look at some of the utility, because there's a ton, but we're going to look at the most important ones. Blessing of Freedom. Removes root and snares from yourself or a party member. Very good in a number of different ways. 40-yard range, 25-second cooldown, so it's up very often. You can use this pretty liberally if you'd like. Alright, Blessing of Protection. Stops all physical damage on a target for 10 seconds. If you use this on yourself, you drop aggro. So be very mindful, but you can use it to protect a party member that maybe grabbed aggro by accident, is getting beat on, or there was a patrol that came in on your marksmanship hunter that's standing 75 yards away. So you run over, they run in, you Blessing of Protection them, save their life, and then round up your mobs. Blessing of Sacrifice. You want to use this fairly rarely. Maybe use it on in a raid setting with a co-tank. So if your co-tank is tanking solo, you can do Blessing of Sacrifice. Reduces their damage taken by 30%, but you take 75% of the damage prevented. So it lasts 12 seconds, or unless you fall below 20% health. So you can use this as a way to like save your tank's life if you're on a single target, kind of like a single target tank situation. So Hungering Destroyer, they're getting ready to take Overwhelm. You just, or they take a big, they're getting ready to take soak damage, whatever the case may be. You can sacrifice them, take some of that damage yourself, split it a little bit, help help the tank out, help your healers with lower amount total that they have to heal between the two of you. All right, Cleanse. Just for paladins, you can cleanse. Let's go. I don't remember the exact one. Where are you? There you go. Cleanse toxins. So you can remove poison and disease effects. That's all you can do. You don't do magic or curses as a paladin, so just be mindful of that. Hammer of Justice. Big old single target stun. We all know about good old Hammer of Justice. Stun the target for 6 seconds, 1 minute cooldown. Rebuke is your interrupt, and Hand of Reckoning is your taunt. So let's talk about the rotation. So the rotation's going to vary a little bit depending on what situation you're in. In single target situations, so let's come over to this, let's do this training dummy. So in this situation, you're going to want to start with Judgment into the Hammer, into this. You're going to want to drop Consecration, of course, and then I got 3 Holy Power. And then after this, it's just basically prioritizing whatever ability is up. So, here I got Judgment up, got this up, we're going to drop Consecration again. This is really the rotation. You just prioritize whatever's up between Hammer of the Righteous and Judgment and your Avenger's Shield, while keeping Consecration up and using this. And you can see now I've got this right here, Word of Glory, up for free, so I use it. Good to go. That's the rotation. Honestly, it's just really simple. In cleave target situations, so you're looking at this right here, or actually we'll go with the Swarm. So here you would want to lead in with Hammer, with Avenger's Shield, so that you can get things on mobs. You can see like it hits everything, and 1.8, 2k DPS or so. So very, very powerful there as well. Alright, so Shield of the Righteous is always used between 3 and 5 Holy Power, and you want to maintain Consecration as close to 100% uptime as possible due to your mastery. Now let's look at talents. So the talents, there's a couple of different sets that you use. This is kind of what I used for leveling for readout, but let's start on the 15 row. Holy Shield is good as you get into stronger and stronger content. 15% extra block chance is good mitigation. You can also block spells, which is unique to you as a paladin. And then successful blocks deal a little bit of holy damage back to the attacker. I'm always going to say this is the one that you want to probably pick by default, just because it's always good. Like, there's no situation in which it's bad. But this whole row is good. So Redoubt allows you to have a little bit more of an offensive style build. I think this is very good for leveling as you're out in the world. Shield of the Righteous gives you strength and stamina, stacking up to 3 times, so 6% strength is nothing to shake a stick at. Blessed Hammer is one that I think a lot of people are probably interested in. You know, it's good old whirling hammer. The thing is that, you know, this damage number that they do, you know, you get a hasted recharge, 3 charges, deal damage to the enemy, and it swirls in the circle so it can hit multiple times, and then the damage that they do physically to you is reduced by 296. But because this is a flat amount and not a percent amount, this starts to get outscaled really badly as you get higher and higher into content. So you can use this very early on, maybe in normal and even heroic dungeons, but as you start pushing into Mythic Plus, you're probably going to want to switch to either Redoubt or Holy Shield, depending on how comfortable you are with your setup. Alright, 25 row Moment of Glories, pretty crap. I don't really take it. Crusader's Judgment you would use for raid situations, giving you a second charge of Judgment. And then when Grand Crusader proc, so your Avenger's Shield proc reset happens, you get a charge of Judgment to go with it. This is very good also at low haste levels because it kind of fills the gaps in the rotation. You saw that I had some gaps there. So this is very good. Obviously the number 1 pick for raid, but good for Mythic Plus, but not the best. That is First Avenger. Avenger's Shield hits 2 additional targets and grants you an Absorb Shield for all of the damage it deals. So this is excellent for Mythic Plus. It can bounce off to many targets and allow you to get a big Absorb Shield, which helps your defensive capability right off the start as you're getting your Shield of the Righteous charges built, you know, Holy Power built up for Shield of the Righteous. So excellent Mythic Plus tool. Definitely choose this for Mythic Plus. Crusader's Judgment for raid situations, and Abode Moment of Glory at all costs. 30 row, pick whatever you want. Fist of Justice is a good reduced one because every time you spend Holy Power, you're going to get, so every Shield of the Righteous basically that you do, you get 6 seconds off of your hammer, so you can get your single target stun back very fast. Blinding Light's the other good one. You get, you know, a minute and a half. Basically, it's a big 10-yard disorient. And so it just allows you to have an extra way to stop spell casting between Avenger's Shield, your Taunt, your Hammer, and Blinding Light. I mean, that's what 4 ways that you're able to stop spell casting. Like, you are a caster's nightmare and very good in dungeons. 35 row, you kind of pick whatever you need on the situation. If you feel like you want more mobility, Cavalier is very good. I also use it for leveling. Unbreakable Spirit is very good in raid situations. Divine Shield, Ardent Defender, and Lay on Hand cooldowns reduced by 30%. The big one is Ardent Defender. It takes it from a 2-minute cooldown to like a minute and 40 seconds, and then there's some other synergies with Legendaries and stuff that can make that even lower. And Blessing of Spell Warding is good for situations where you know there's going to be a ton of magic damage, and you don't need the cooldown reduction on Ardent Defender. You can choose Blessing of Spell Warding, and it just replaces your Blessing of Protection. So it just does the opposite of what Bop does. It makes your target immune from magic damage for 10 seconds. And it causes forbearance, which means you can't stack these on a single person like multiple times. On the 40 row, you can kind of take any of these. Divine Purpose is probably the best general use talent. You get a chance to make your Holy Powers abilities free and do more damage, so good for Shield of the Righteous. Holy Avenger gives you triple Holy Power generation. This is a big offensive cooldown actually, because you just spam Shield of the Righteous a ton. And Seraphim gives you a bunch of stats, 8% haste, crit, burst, and mastery. So this is also a good general sort of offensive and defensive one if you want to have another Holy Power spender. I personally don't use this on my Paladin. I don't really see a good situation for it, so I just kind of stick with Divine Purpose because getting that free Shield of the Righteous every now and then is going to be good for defensive uptime and for offensive output. 45 row, Hand of the Protector, means you can basically use this on another target. This is going to be good for raid because you know, you may not always be, you know, actually this one is a sacrifice a little bit because you would go from only using Word of Glory on yourself to potentially using it on someone else. So there is a chance that like on farm raid this might be pretty good, but for progression there's other things that I think are better. And for Mythic Plus, the talent that I have chosen, Consecrated Ground, it's much better. So Consecration is larger, and enemies inside of it have 50% reduction in their speed. So this is great for kiting. This week as a recording, which is March 26th now is the date. It is Necrotic week, so this will be very useful in helping you drop your necrotic stacks. And 15% larger means that enemies are going to be in it more often, which means more room for you to maneuver for your damage reduction and more damage that you're putting out because more enemies can be inside of it. For raid, you probably want to go Judgment of Light. When you use Judgment, the next 25 successful attacks against the target heal the attackers for a small number. You think, okay, that's only 74 healing. That's like not anything at all. But when you consider that you multiply that by 25, you know, it's a few thousand healing that you're doing that you maybe save a healer on a heal for. And because you're using Judgment quite often and you have 2 charges of it, this buff is up quite a bit in a raid situation. So you're basically consistently healing your raid, even if it's for a very small amount. Alright, on the 50 row, Final Stand. This is the talent where when you Divine Shield, you taunt. So this is very good for emergency situations in Mythic Plus. If you're learning or you're trying to, if you struggle getting aggro, this is a very good talent to have because you can taunt everything, final, bubble, and then do some of your normal rotation abilities to build up threat other ways. Righteous Protector. Each holy power spent reduces the cooldown on Avenging Wrath and Guardian of Ancient Kings. So this just gives your cooldowns more uptime, particularly on Avenging Wrath. So you get big offensive boost on that. And then Ancient Kings, of course, is a big defensive boost. Sanctified Wrath makes your Avenging Wrath longer, and Judgment goes to a 2 holy power generator. This is very good for both Raid and Mythic Plus. Like, you can really pick either of these talents. Just pick what you do. I'm actually going to switch to Sanctified Wrath on this character. Righteous Protector was the one that you wanted to use in BFA, but Sanctified Wrath has become a very, very good build. So you can see, just to recap, for a single target build, Holy Shield, Crusader Judgment, pick whatever you want. Probably Unbreakable Spirit, but pick whatever you want. Divine Purpose, Judgment of Light, Sanctified Wrath. This is kind of your raid build. For your Mythic Plus build, Holy Shield, First Avenger, probably Blinding Light, Unbreakable Spirit everywhere. I'm going to go back to Cavalier, Divine Purpose, Consecrated Ground, Sanctified Wrath. So these are the 2 builds that you have for Mythic Plus and for raid, so there's a little bit of variety there. Alright, let's look into stat priority. So stat priority, so this is not my primary spec on this character. As you can see, Shock Barrier, I'm mainly Holy. But what you want to do is you want to try to get your haste to around 20 to 25%. That's going to give you enough hasted cooldowns and enough holy power generation to keep Shield of the Righteous up as close to 100%. After that, it's all about the versatility and the mastery. Both of these are going to be good stats. You kind of just pick whatever you can get more of and then go from there, because both of these give you strong defensive benefit. Versatility just increases damage done across the board. Your mastery gives you inside Consecration, which you should have down all the time anyway. And then Crit Strike is not very good for Protection Paladin, so you just kind of want to avoid it at all costs. If you happen to have some on gear, that's fine, but you don't want to go out of your way for it. Alright, let's go ahead and pull up Legendaries. So the general use Legendary that you want to use here is, let's see, is Holy Engraved Sigil. Here it is, Holy Avengers Engraved Sigil. This comes from Torghast out of the Fractured Chambers on a 3+ layer, and basically your Avenger Shield has a 35% chance to have its cooldown instantly reset when used, so you can spam these back to back. Obviously very high use in Mythic Plus, because if you have First Avenger, you're getting, 5 bounces, and you get a shield for that. You can bounce it twice and get a pretty big shield. So there is good use here. This is not the best for anything, but if you're just looking for something that's going to be good in all content in some form or fashion, this is not a bad choice to make. Alright, for Mythic Plus, you want to look at Bulwark of Righteous Fury. So this comes from Halls of Atonement, High Adjudicator Elise. Your Avenger's Shield increases the damage of your next Shield of the Righteous by 30% for each target hit by Avenger's Shield, stacking up to 5 times. So you're talking big damage. And also increases the radius of it by 6 yards, so it can bounce a little bit. The range on it bouncing to another target is a little bit further. There's some very good places where this is good, where packs are pretty spread out. I'm thinking Theater of Pain with the Arbalists that just stand like marksman hunters. They stand very far back and just shoot you. This will allow you to get some damage on them to keep threat on them. Definitely the best for Mythic Plus. This has no use in Raid, unfortunately. So if you're looking to target like Mythic Plus best and Raid best, you're going to have to go out and do a lot of Torghast, but this is going to be one that you can get off the drop in the dungeon. So definitely go after it if you're looking for a really great Mythic Plus legendary. Alright, Magistrates Judgment. This is going to be your defensive raid 1. Judgment has a chance, 45% chance to reduce the next Holy Power Spender by 1. Make sure Shield of the Righteous 2 power instead of 1, so you can potentially do 2 back-to-back if you needed to keep your uptime. This is a much more defensive-oriented raid build, so maybe starting out it's really good, but then as you outgear the raid content or you get really, really comfortable with the damage timings, you can potentially switch over to the Mad Paragon. Hammer of Wrath deals 30% additional damage and extends your Avenging Wrath by 1 second. Avenging Wrath is a pure offensive cooldown for Protection Paladin, so this is just a really good way to get you really strong offensive capabilities overall. And then if you're someone that likes to multi-spec a lot, you can get this from Relentless Inquisitor. Spending Holy Power gives you 1% haste per finisher for up to 12 seconds, stacking up to 5 times. So every time you spend Holy Power, so Shield of the Righteous, we'll talk about Ret Paladin a little bit later, but Templar's Verdict, Word of Glory, or Light of Dawn on Holy Paladin, you get some extra haste. This is a good if you are looking to play all 3 specs and don't have time or desire to go out and get 4 or 5 different legendaries for the spec. This is one that you can play across all 3 specs, and it's going to be good enough. Won't be the best, but it will be good enough. So that's the legendaries, guys. So overall, the Protection Paladin, I think, is a spec that is known for doing an absolute truckload of damage. It is a spec that is not the most sturdy tank. I think it's probably the least tanky of the tanks, but the amount of damage that it does is just ridiculous. The amount of utility that it brings is just insane. If you can figure out how to time your cooldown through a mix of Shield of the Righteous, Guardian of Ancient Kings, and Ardent Defender in particular, you're going to have yourself a pretty good time. You're going to do a lot of damage, potentially even out damaging some of your DPS. And the spec itself, it's quite fun. It is a little bit stat reliant. You want that high haste number in particular for you to kind of achieve the goals that you want with being able to consistently like push buttons all the time, every GCD. But the spec itself is not my favorite tank. It's probably 3rd or 4th on my list, but it is a very good tank that definitely just needs some good defensive buffs. If it got better uptime on Shield of the Righteous, acted more like the Brewmaster Shuffle passive, maybe tone down the damage slightly to make Shield of the Righteous's armor go up, maybe trade the damage for more armor, something like that I think would make the spec a little bit more defensive oriented. Then I think you see Protection Paladin start to become one of the most popular tanks in both middle and upper end Mythic Plus and middle and upper end rating. So if you're looking to play Protection Paladin, I hope this guide was helpful. Like I said, we'll do Conduit, Soulbinds, and Legendaries, or Conduit, Soulbinds, and Covenants in another video, so that'll be coming hopefully within the next week or so. But in the meantime, I'm going to be working on Ret Paladin as the next beginner's guide video, and then Holy after that. So until the next video, I hope you all stay safe. Please go get scheduled for your vaccines as soon as you can, and I will see you all next time.